Greetings, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Dreamscapes. Today we have a very cat-heavy episode because he's not going to get out of my lap or leave me alone anytime soon. And our guest is Stijn Fox from the Netherlands. He is the host of the Grey Horn Pagans podcast, a worldwide podcast and tribal network for pagans, witches, mystics, and now wizards. I did an interview with him myself, among other spiritual folk. He's also the author of Pagan Revival, a guide to the ancient wisdom for the modern world. You can find him, of course, at greyhornpagans.com. That's Grey, G-R-E-Y, greyhornpagans.com. Of course, link in the description below. For my part, would you kindly like, share, and subscribe? Tell your friends. Always need more viewers for the video game streams, Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. And usually when I end a game, I take the week off. So, sometimes not Thursdays, Fridays. I'm not always playing a game. Wow. Complete hiccup. Always need more volunteer dreamers. You can reach out and contact me across a bunch of different social media stuff. Links in the description, of course. This episode brought to you in part by ABC Book 10, The Witch's Dream Book. It's kind of a charming late 19th century pop culture look at the obsession with the occult and magic, focused specifically on dreaming. One of those kind of penny books maybe you'd get down at the local grocers, that kind of thing. Very, very interesting. What else we got here? I feel like I'm out of order, but of course, all this and more at BenjaminTheDreamWizard.com, including downloadable MP3 versions of this very podcast, most of them released on Fridays before I release the full YouTube video. Trying to drive some traffic there, of course. And if you would head on over to BenjaminTheDreamWizard.locals.com, that's where I'm trying to build a community. It's attached to my Rumble account, free to join. You can give me money or not, but that's probably one of the best places to reach me if you have a dream. Let's build that community together. That is more than enough out of me. Stijn, thank you for being patient while I ramble through my introduction. I think I was distracted by the cat, too.
Yeah. Oh, cats are hugely distracting. I would know. I have two myself who are actually playing outside at the moment. So I, for once, have no cat distractions. Because usually I think that was with the show that we did, that that Big Red Timmy made his presence known.
Oh yeah.
He loves when I'm on the show. He always has to make himself known, and I don't have much space on my desk, but Timmy doesn't care. He's like, yeah, there's always space for me.
It's always when we're in the middle of something else. It's not when we've got plenty of free time. You can come love me right now. He's like, no, I'm doing my own thing right now. I'm going to wait till you're doing your own thing. That's when I want attention. Every time. Yeah. Anyone who's watched some of my recent video game streams will see, he just gets right up on the microphone, and he's in between me and here, and no one can hear me talk. And I'm like, Jesus. But anyway, we'll give him love while we can. We're just talking, so I don't have to take any notes right now. It'll be interesting to see what he does later when I start trying to take notes. Good place to start with folks is like if they have projects going, I like to ask them about it. And it's, you know what I am going to do though is I am going to move. I've got my mouse X resting on top of the stop recording button. We're going to move that over here just in case. Oh, and there he goes. What are you doing? He saw me get busy. Now he's going to go after the mouse. That's why I moved it. Hi. I like to ask folks.
He's a cat, right? That's what he's supposed to do.
It's what he does.
After mice.
Yeah. He's also, he's a boy cat, and we need to get him fixed at some point soon. So he's extra frisky. He's always chasing around the old. This is my. I keep trying to ask about you, and I keep talking about me. Sorry. My area compared to the main house. This is kind of in a way, like the retirement zone. Like all the old cats come and live with me. And we when I say all of it, we're the unofficial rescue shelter for the neighborhood. They just show up. The cat distribution system has targeted us for some reason, and we get them all. Anyway, so as they age, but he's the youngest one now. We've got even before. God, he's only like 2 or 3 months old, something like that. He was just a little too frisky for some of the other cats in the house. They were kind of scared of him, so that's fine. He can just come with me. So now he chases all the elderly cats around here, and they're like, I do not want to play. What's wrong with you? Anyway, so you're a podcaster and you've got a book out there. And I mean, how did you get into this stuff? I don't know if we want to do an origin story or if you just want to talk about, when it became important to you in your life, that kind of thing. I mean, it's wide open, anything.
When did I started podcasting? I want to say 4 years ago, right around when the whole world got scared of a heavy flu and decided to lock it up.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, I started by just listening to podcasts. I mean, I lost my job. I was a cook, professional in the kitchen, working freelance. So I got hit double.
Oh, yeah.
All restaurants closed, and I had no income to fall back on. So I took odd jobs here and there, one of which was delivery on the bike. Of course, I am still Dutch, so we do everything on the bike. And I mean, like, if you're working 4 or 5 days a week, a lot of double shifts, of course, because bills to pay, kids to feed. Like, at a certain point, your playlist on Spotify, it's like, okay, I've heard my entire playlist 3, 4, 5 times by now, but I need something to distract me. I need something to entertain me.
Oh yeah, I'm the same way.
And yeah, and I like knew about the existence of podcasts. It was what was 2020 like kind of the boom of podcasts? Like, that's when everybody started.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently, I mean, nobody had anything else better to do, so
Yeah.
like, why not start a podcast?
No, I know I've talked to a lot of folks that have joined me on the program here, and that's exactly their origin story. Like, well, it was during COVID, and then I had nothing to do, and I was bored, and I decided, or I lost my job, or those kind of things. Yeah.
Yeah, always been interested in religion. Always been a bit of a history buff. I found some podcasts, or one initially that really got me into the pagan podcasting stuff. There was the Occult Rejects, at that time still hosted by NY Patriot and Lux, his former co-host, and someone, or at least NY Patriot, I've had on my podcast now a few times as well, which always like still feels weird to me. Like, he and like a couple of his, well, let's say podcasting buddies are what got me into podcasting, and now I can like consider myself within that circle. But yeah, I actually started out as a guest on a podcast, the My Third Eye podcast with Ghost, talking about Tartaria, but more like the conspiracy, hidden history side of Tartaria. Of course, the mud floods and all that stuff, which was incredibly interesting. I knew his show was, he did a lot of that stuff. I was in his Telegram group. I shared a post from another group there, and I was like, hey, like, Ghost, have you, like, do you know about this stuff? Have you heard about this before? And he's like, no, this is a first for me. Well, I mean, if you'll let me, I'll write some things down, and I'll come on the podcast to talk about it. And I was nervous. I was
Right?
nervous as heck.
Yeah.
I had like no professional equipment whatsoever, so the audio quality is absolutely horrendous because it was just like
that's how I started
my
too.
laptop. It was my laptop mic, laptop speakers, that's how I got started initially, which was just terrible. But yeah, like I had so much fun doing that. I did Tartaria twice with him. I started listening to other podcasts and podcasters, and at a certain point, I was just like, you know what? I want to do this myself. Like I just seems like a lot of fun, you know, talking with people, learning from people, and initially I kind of wanted to keep it within the tribe of the Grammar Pagans, you know, like a lot of just members. But, you know, only so many people have an interesting story to tell. So I kind of started branching out, finding different platforms, finding people on social media. That's also really when my podcast took off, when I got the cord and decided to, you know, make a Twitter account, because that's where everybody was.
Yeah. Got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can like try and stick to your guns and just the alternative platforms, but I mean, there are alternative platforms for a reason. The main platforms is still where everyone is. So, you know, put your pride aside. And, like, if you want to make it, you still got to be there.
There's definitely a balance to be struck between the, you know, freedom to kind of say whatever you want, which is more on the alternative side. But then there's also the reach of the mainstream platforms. A little more, I don't know. Sometimes when you get too big, they start developing all these, you know, terms of service, and maybe they're well-meaning in the beginning, but then they always get applied funky depending on the current Overton window of what's acceptable or not to discuss. I mean, I think it's only in the last year or two, not two, but probably in the last year, that it's become acceptable to discuss what happened during the, you know, global pandemic, and whether or not you think some decisions were right or wrong, and, you know, and also, you know, discussing, say, in America specifically, the potential for shenanigans during certain political events. Those things have also been very heavily punished in some ways. I mean, according to a very specific narrative. It's like, oh, you go out, you say anything that isn't approved, and you're in trouble. I'm like, well, I don't like that at all. I like being able to say anything, even if I'm wrong. I actually put out a tweet once. There was like, I'd like to take this opportunity to say I apologize for nothing, and I double down on everything I've ever said, especially when I was wrong. Take that. That's kind of how I like. Whatever, it's fine. I'm not right about everything.
No, as you said. I mean, certain platforms have definitely become better at it under, let's say, under new management,
right?
And but YouTube is still way too strict about it. I had a entire roundtable podcast deleted because I kind of started with or started doing serious stuff, which is also how I made a lot of connections initially. Talking about Ragnarok, the end of the world according to the Norse Germanic mythology.
Yeah, well, that's a great thing to get into too. Is like, let's explain some of these concepts to people so they get a better idea of, you know, what it is and how it works. Because I would say pop culture or mass consciousness understanding of it is end of the world, literally, you know, apocalypse. They equate it to the Christian concept of apocalypse.
That's exactly what I was discussing and exploring on the Roundtable podcast, because like every major religion has its own apocalypse or its own dark age. You know, Norse Germanic mythology, it's Ragnarok, which is the end of the old gods, but you know, time is cyclical, so kind of starts over again. Of course, indeed, as you mentioned, in Christianity, you have the apocalypse. In the Hindu, Buddhist traditions, you have the Kali Yuga, which is like the dark age of mankind, but more like a spiritual dark age, and you could say that that's like the end of the world in a way. So I brought a whole bunch of people together and just started talking about that and recording it and putting it online. I mean, I think the longest one we did was 6+ hours.
Wow. Yeah.
Which was a lot, and I didn't have a good chair back then, so it was just a wooden chair with a cushion on it. So I was hurting because I wasn't comfortable.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, the conversations were incredibly interesting. We made a lot of connections, a lot of speculations. It's a lot about the basically what Ragnarok comes down to is the fight between the giants, the primordial giants, and the gods. It's the final battle, the final countdown, if you will. And now you have that song stuck in your head. You're welcome.
You lose the game.
Oh, that's even
Oh
worse.
no! Yeah. I had to do it. Well, that's interesting too. So I don't know if say Norse pagans view it differently than Christians, in the sense that most, my understanding is, most religions around the world, they give it as cyclical, as you said, wherein the Christianity, though, is meant to be permanent. It's like the apocalypse, the final apocalypse, whereafter humanity ends, and now we all go to live in heaven. And I wonder if the Ragnarok conception is a little bit different, where it is just the end of a cycle and the beginning of something new. It isn't the end of the world per se.
It's the end of the world as we know it, and we're starting from scratch, basically, or just with the remnants of the old world, if you will.
Gotcha.
I mean, a lot of older religions, ancient religions, see time as cyclical. I mean, the Eastern religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, they all see time as cyclical. It's really only the Christian belief that sees it as linear, although you could say that, if you live on in heaven, it's also a new cycle.
Yeah.
In a way,
it is the end
cycle
of the old world and a new beginning.
Yeah, in the kingdom of heaven, where everything is perfect and nothing ever goes wrong, which just sounds incredibly boring to me.
That's a big challenge too. Yeah, it's like, and I don't think it's, well, what am I? So I'm not a Christian. Of course, I'm not a pagan necessarily. I do consider myself a mystic, though, in that sense. And there's a more mystic tradition in Christianity where, that hasn't been as popular per se. Well, what I'm trying to say is that if you were to embrace that view of Christianity, then it fits more in line with other religions' concept of apocalypse. There is no the apocalypse. There are many. It is the cyclical thing. Yeah. It's the ending of things and new beginnings, and it's specifically in the Bible, it's a hopeful or positive view. It's it's the end of bad things and the new beginning of better things. Is one way I'd put it.
Which is similar in a way to the Kali Yuga ending, like going from the Dark Age into the Golden Age.
Oh yeah.
It's the same idea, but there's definitely a strong mysticism in Christianity. But if you really want to explore that, you really have to go to the Eastern Orthodox churches, the Eastern Orthodox Christianity. Those are still there are still some very powerful mystics within that side of the church.
Definitely, and I love the internet meme, the surf the Kali Yuga, and then it's got like a skeleton on on a surfboard type of thing. One of the reasons I love it is because there's nothing else you can do. It is a force around you as powerful as the waves of the ocean. Conceptually, we can't control the ocean. The ocean does what it does, and all you can do, you can't control the waves, but you can learn how to surf. Is an old old expression. So then that kind of, I think that was a meeting of those two Eastern and Western philosophies in that idea of surf the Kali Yuga, where it's like, and not only that, it's also a positive message of saying you can still enjoy yourself in the decline of civilization. You can surfing is fun, but it's also a way of staying balanced on among the waves and controlling what you can. Memes are so deep. People think, oh, it's a silly picture on the internet. Like, no, it's fundamental truth. When memes become popular, they say something that resonates with everyone in a very specific way for a very specific reason. And that's where I lean into that mystic side of it. That's mysticism right there in a nutshell to me.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, memes are like in their own way a form of mysticism. They also have a very strong mystic ties. I mean, there are so many times that I've seen, chatting online or in certain more esoteric groups, of like, how did you get radicalized? Well, through memes.
Yeah.
That's really it. And it's like, so which is so odd in a way, because I mean, a meme, it's very short and of course, meant to be funny or provoking in a way, but like if just a picture like that with bottom text or top text, bottom text, if that makes you think, if that already radicalizes you, I mean, there's some magic in those things.
Well, memes are a lot older than people think. I mean, there's folks new to the internet, and what I mean by that is like there's some of us who, let's see, some of the kids today, they grew up with it's always been here, and so they see it as one thing. Then there's some of us who bridge the gap, and so I was around almost 20 years before the internet became a thing, and I got to see it change, and then social media occur. But there's then there's folks older than me that are like, they don't get any of this. They don't know what's going on. But if it's understood properly, I think the Christian cross is a meme. We understand icons. We understand iconography and symbolism. The yin yang is a meme. I mean, these are very powerful images that are like pre-verbal in some ways. I mean, we understand the idea of the intersection of two roads, the crossroads, and then you've got a cross. And in the say Christian tradition, it is a symbol of sacrifice. It's a symbol of all kinds. It carries multiple layers of meaning within it, as does the yin yang. The perfect wholeness of opposites in union. I've said this before, but I think the yin yang is probably the oldest name for God, in the creator of the universe, and symbolizing that essence. Before we had language. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, some would also say that's the Tetragrammaton, of course.
Sure.
The Yod He Vav He. Yeah, I've definitely spoken to way too many people, way too many mystics.
That's good stuff. Yeah, there's a channel I was gonna. Well, I'm thinking about it because I'm gonna forget. It's a channel called Esoterica. He's a Jewish professor of.
Yeah.
You've heard of that? Oh, he's really good.
Good.
I love that.
He's good.
I love that stuff. Okay, I just wanted to mention that if you hadn't heard of it, that's a guy. I love his explanations.
Dude, come on. No, there's another channel I really like. He's also he's very learned, but also a mystic in his own way. Edith Hager. He does a lot of good stuff. Edith Hager. So, I mean, there's so many good things. People who take it from a more sociological, more practical side, and then there are the people who take it from the mystic side of things. But both absolutely valid.
Oh yeah,
in their own way. But yeah, memes definitely have a certain power to them. They have a lot of power to them. I mean, in the UK, people are already getting arrested over memes that they post. Not even the memes they have made themselves, but just memes that they spread.
Share, yeah.
So
yeah.
if they were meaningless, they
The powers
they
that
wouldn't be bothered.
the powers that be wouldn't feel threatened, and they do. That's the only reason to lock people up is, oh no, this idea might catch on, and that's a threat to our power. So they're gonna shut it down.
Literally mimetic warfare.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's in true say yin yang. It's like I love that symbol. It's like I can see it when I close my eyes. It's just I try to bring together the mystic and the practical in that sense of like. And I'm also trying to explain, what is magic and how does it work. And I think we might have talked about this a little bit on your show, but the idea that you can do everything possible to facilitate the generation of a new idea, but inspiration we don't know where it comes from. We don't know how it functions. How do new ideas get generated? They just appear as if by magic. I mean, I don't know that we're ever going to figure that out. We certainly scientifically can't make it happen. You can only set up the conditions under which it's more likely to happen. But then that unknown magical quantity comes in, and bam, we got something new that's never existed before. And it's like, whoa. Now what I do is I tend to recycle a lot of old things and rediscover old things and go, oh, someone already said that 1,000 years ago. Of course they did. I wasn't the first. Go ahead.
Well, that's also cyclical. Memes, knowledge, expressions. That's also cyclical. For you, that might be a new thing that you just thought of, but it just means that you're tapped into the same source or have a certain connection to the same source as the previous one who thought of that has.
Yeah.
And especially if you come up with it individually, like if you didn't know about it and you're just like, I discovered a new thing, and then you start looking, it's like, oh no, this is actually hundreds of years old. That's awesome. That means that the idea still lives, like it's still floating around in the ether, or however you want to call it, somewhere.
Oh yeah. And well, at first I was very disappointed when those, because that's happened to me more than once throughout my life, is rediscovering these things. And then I started to realize, it's not bad that it isn't an original idea. It's actually better. It's actually better that it's so old that people thousands of years ago thought of it, and it's still true. It was always true. That's the other thing too, is like I have a very different view. I was arguing with some folks on a Discord. I'm not in that Discord anymore, but once upon a time, arguing with them about the idea that I don't think anything is ever invented versus discovered. I think we can only discover what is there waiting to be found. I don't know that we can actually create anything new. That's kind of an idea that I've come to believe in. And I use the example of mathematics, like the principles of math. We didn't create those. We kind of discovered them. The addition and subtraction and division, and then all the formulas that and I'm terrible at math. I'm like math retarded. So, but the concept is like, I think that expresses it best. The principles of aerodynamics and lift for an airplane. We didn't create that. We just figured it out. It was already there to be discovered. I'll stop right there, and I don't know if you have thoughts on that concept in general.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, how many of the major inventions that changed humankind as we know it are or were found by accident?
Oh yeah, that too.
It's like, especially if you look at alchemy, for example. It's just what would happen if I do this and this? What would happen if I combine these two things? Holy shit! Okay, that's awesome. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try and replicate this, see if I can do it in a controlled environment. But still, they didn't do it with the intention of, I'm going to create this. It's more like, what would happen if?
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely think you're onto something there. We found those ideas, they were already there. I mean, the laws of nature, laws of physics. I mean, we just gave them a name and some mathematical formulas so that the big brain people know what it is, which is another thing that I find so incredibly funny. You'll see science now actually catching up to religion and spirituality.
Yeah, for sure. No, and I think a lot of it has been misunderstood as fantasy, as pure storytelling versus actually they confuse the method with the substance in some ways. Like, yes, the method is stories. We have to tell a story because we're storytelling creatures. We have to, there has to be a narrative involved to get the point across, or that's one of the most effective ways to get the point across. But that doesn't mean it was just purely made up and meaningless. It doesn't mean it was just purely for entertainment. It's I think we're finally understanding that a lot of these stories had, and always had, deep meaning, and that the lesson of the story perhaps pre-existed the story, but is still contained in the story. And it's not, so I think every religion of the world that's persisted has something to say of value, and we just got to kind of figure out what it is. It doesn't mean all of it's true or correct or whatever. And of course, you pick your the pumpkin pie that tastes best to you, whatever that means. I can't think of a better analogy. I'll stop there. I think you get what I'm saying, but
that analogy works,
right?
Sure.
Yeah. I almost said pick your poison, but I'm like, it's not actually. It's not poison. It's the opposite. It's the opposite. No. I'm like, that's a bad analogy.
Yeah. So the opposite of poison is pumpkin pie. Okay.
Well, there you go. I guess that's what came to me. Here we are on pumpkin spice season, and I'm like, yeah. And there's people have so many different recipes, and they're all delicious. So anyway, I like it with a graham cracker crust. Actually, I like cheesecake. That's my favorite. Now we're just going to talk about food. I haven't eaten today. I woke up, I had my coffee, and I'm like, now there's I think my wife made some beef stew in there. I'm going to go eat that in a bit. That's okay. So good.
Oh, that's good stuff. Like, this is the season for those kind of dishes.
Yeah, definitely. Don't eat hot stuff in the summer, but as soon as it gets cold, I'm like, fill my belly with warm.
Yeah, I mean that. Like, here in the Netherlands, that's when all the potato-based dishes come out again.
Nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably only the Irish have us beat when it comes to the potato and the consumption of potatoes.
Mm-hmm.
We're also definitely a famous people for the potato, which is very basic but feeds so much.
Oh, I love
There's
it.
so much in it.
I love taters.
Even nicotine.
Oh, really?
Nicotine in potatoes.
I had no idea. Well, a lot of these compounds are in a lot of things you wouldn't assume that they are. But that one's like that is news to me. I don't think I've ever heard that before, and I believe you automatically just because, of course, it is. Why not? It doesn't surprise me at all. I don't know if we concluded. I'm just thinking back on that. Drifted far afield from where we started, which is fine. I mean, nothing has to be. This is what it is, freewheeling. But the idea of why Ragnarok came back to me. The idea of So one thing I wanted to ask you, so being more well versed on the stories and whatnot, what am I trying to ask? Like, what's the symbolism involved in it's the gods versus the giants, and why is it the giants and not something else, and why is it winter? Or why are they ice giants specifically? Now, we could say, well, because they lived in the north and there's ice everywhere. But it also might be something else. Or anyway, I wanted to get your take on like why it's composed, why the story is told that way. Yeah.
Winter is also very much a thing. That is the precursor to Ragnarok, Fimbulwinter, which is, I believe, like three winters in a row.
With no summer in between, right?
Yeah. So just darkness and death, really.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I mean, you have those periods up north. Like, if you come close to the pole circle, I think it should be around this time of year when there is, due to the axis of our planet. Assuming it's a ball and floating through space and whatever. That's just
separate discussion.
Let's assume. Let's just assume what we've been taught in school is right just for the sake of the story. But there are, and I do believe it's around this time, or like September, a period of like prolonged. Of probably feeling like eternal darkness, where the sun simply does not rise high enough above the above the equator to give off its sunlight. So you have, and I do believe it is several weeks, if not indeed months, of just darkness. Like 3 in the afternoon, 3 at night, same. Just dark.
It reminds me of that movie. I don't know if you've seen it, 30 Days of Night. 30 Days of Night. And it's it's set in kind of in the Arctic Circle where there's a full month where the sun never rises, and it's the movie was based on a graphic novel, started as a comic, and they made a movie about it. I think they set it in Alaska, in the far north in Alaska, and it's about vampires come to town. Well, they can hunt 24/7 for a full month, and it's like, how do these people survive? I think Josh Hartnett was in it, if I'm remembering correctly. I don't remember.
Early 2000s movie.
Something. Yeah, you looked it up. Yeah. And it was actually very well done. I love that high concept. It was like, oh man, you'd be screwed. Of course, that's where vampires would go.
Yeah. No, but yeah, that is an actual thing. Just days and days, probably 30 days at least. Yeah. Of just darkness and cold and death, and it's also when when the rates of ending one's own life are at the highest, which makes sense. I mean, even here in the Netherlands, so we're not that far up north, but we definitely have our winter dip. Because we don't really have much of a, or anymore at least, of a transitional period from summer, and then it's like, oh, the pretty leaves are falling, and now it's actually cold. It's more like it switches from one day to the other, or that's how it feels like, and just goes on for forever.
Yeah.
Like March, springtime, yay, but it's still cold and wet outside. I thought it was spring.
I get that problem here in Oregon too, where it's like it feels like summer is 3 days long and winter is and it's always raining and it's always dark and it's always cold and I don't know. But then again, we get into those the 3 or 4 months of the actual summer, miserably hot. It's just, oh my God, I can't wait till it cools off. Like, oh no, it's snowing.
Yeah, no, that's so ironic. Like in summer, you're like, oh, can it just please cool down? And it's winter, and you're like, can we get summer back?
Now. Yep, my feet will never be warm again. Well, so as you were talking and describing things, it's like, some people get hung up on the specifics, and they're like, what is it? Norse paganism can't be true or real or correct because the idea of eternal winter is silly to someone, or 3 years of winter in a row is silly to someone who lives on the equator. I mean, of course, that's not going to be. And what I was looking at is you've got the narrative level and the elements that are incorporated, but those are actually symbolic on one level up, where it's like, okay, yeah, local weather phenomenon are going to be incorporated in a story of that region. In a different region, it's going to be the same end of the world with different players and a different setting, but it's all talking about the same thing. It's all talking about the same cyclical phenomenon. So in terms of understanding Norse mythology, it's very much going to be set in the that's how I say Christian mythology too. So no offense, of course.
It's fine.
Right? Yeah. I don't mean to go. It's like, I don't mean that. So the way it sounds. So, of course, if you have those stories told in that region, it's going to be specific to that region and saying, okay, but then talking about, so why ice giants? I mean, was there and then also maybe factoring in the idea of why Loki was an ice giant baby or a half breed, and how that came to be, and what that means about go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's funny because a lot of the gods, the gods of the pantheon that we know, being Wotan, Donar, Tivas, their Germanic names at least. I mean, for the American audience, you know them as Odin, Thor, Tyr, but they're Germanic gods, and Germanic is just taking Northwestern Europe as a whole. Those are Germanic countries. Scandinavia, still Germanic. But they are, I mean, not all, but at least, the Odin was a half god. He's the child of God. Loki is child of a giant. So a lot of them are half giants, if you will. But there's always been this battle between the giants and the gods. I mean, in fact, like in the sagas, in our stories, our world, our physical world, is created out of the body of the primordial ice giant Ymir. It even goes a little like you can even attach things to it as like a domed earth, because from his the top of his skull the heavens were made. His brains turned into the clouds, his blood became the rivers, his bones became the mountains. So like and I don't know actually why it's always the giants. Maybe because they are this primordial force. Gotcha. They're in every story, really, like ever written. Giants are not the thinkers. They're not the brainiacs. They're just these big brutes that want things, and they want them now, and if you're not going to give it to them, they're just going to bash your head in. Simple as that.
Sounds very iconic of like the forces of nature in a way. Like it is what it is. I mean, you can't argue with nature. It's overwhelming. It does what it wants, and you've got to, in a sense, carve out a living from it. It makes a lot. So to back this up before I continue, as you were describing that, it just occurred to me the idea of, well, the Greek gods fought the Titans, so they have their own giants, the Titans. And then just a small tangent made me think that, I don't know. I don't think there's an apocalyptic element to Greek mythology anywhere. I don't think there's an end of the world in that. Not that I've ever heard of. I'm like, that's interesting. An outlier. Maybe there is, but
I mean, I think
final battle with the gods that destroys the world. Maybe.
No, I think in Greek mythology, I'm not that well versed in the Southern European mythologies. I do know some of it. I think that more equates to the battle that they had with the Titans when
that battle already happened.
When Zeus locked them up in Tartarus. I think if you want to compare mythologies, I think that may be like their version of Ragnarok. I think. I mean, that would come closest. I don't know if
certainly a different
really
context
have
but similar type of
battle. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the gods are very they are similar as well, but of course, more attuned to the or more attuned to the lands of Southern Europe. So that's why you have these the gods of of the feast with drinking a lot of wine and whatever, because I mean that's what grows there. That's why olive oil is always in there. That's why these big feasts of just being lazy and whatever. That's a thing there. I mean, here in Northern Europe, I mean, we can do that now, but like in the times of our ancestors, or in the times when the sagas were written, a feast, I mean, yeah, but that's just, it's a lot of meat, a lot of hearty, fatty products, because that's what we need to survive in this cold European climate. Like, we can't just survive on fish, olives, and vegetables. Like, we're gonna be just too skinny and not able to handle the cold winters of Northern Europe.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, that also made me think of it. I'm bouncing all over the place because suddenly a thought that I had earlier comes back to me. But the idea that I've thought this for a long time, and again, I'm probably not the first one to think of it. But the idea that we pack in so many of our important holidays into the winter months, and I've always thought that's been a human cultural adaptation to get us through the winter without killing ourselves, without self-deleting. The idea that we've always got something, we've got another feast to look forward to in just a little while. We've got another gathering with family. We've got another, celebration of the passing of the equinox. So that, hey, winter's almost over. Okay, keep, and then we start looking forward to the springtime celebrations. The return of the pretty flowers and the bunnies mating and leaving their eggs.
The return of Persephone, the return of Balder, and also the feasts. I mean, it's of course the one of the major ones that we just gone through, which I guess technically is still going on, Samhain, or turned into Halloween now, but originally is Samhain. That was the first big feast after the harvest. So that's when you prepare for winter, when you celebrate the going into the winter months, that you celebrate the ancestors, because it's a time of death, really. I mean, if I just look outside, all the trees are getting very barren. It's getting cold. There are no animals really outside anymore. You won't see bunnies hopping over the flower fields in this time of year. So you could say that goes into the story, the saga of the death of Balder, of course, who was the most beautiful of all the gods, the most radiant of all the gods, a sun god, or sun-like god, if you will. He was the brightest. He brought the light. He brought love. But because of a trick from Loki, because who else? Just for his entertainment, because he thought it was funny. The little side thing that I always have to mention: Loki is not evil. Loki is just very self-centered, and he'll do things and he'll trick people because he thinks it's funny. Yeah, that's it. Like, there is no other reason. It's for self-gain, self-gratification.
Yeah, if you personify these things, and there's a lot of different. I love. There's a book that I would recommend. It's called "Trickster Makes This World." It's a great book about the look of all the different trickster gods, and they're not always out to hurt anybody, and they're not always on your side. But it's that distilled essence of chaos and potential and Murphy's Law. Anything that can't go wrong will go wrong. He's what makes that happen? Well, it's Loki. It's being himself, just doing his thing. It's a funny thing too. It's like as we're having this conversation too, I'm having conceptual ideas, like, so you've got mankind, you've got nature, and then the merger of primordial force and human-like existence is the gods. It's like halfway in between. It's like more powerful than we are, but on our side versus nature more. I'm not describing this very well, but it seemed like if you got the opposites and then the balance of opposites comes together in the gods, and then we get the stories about the gods, which are supposed to help us understand the giants of the ice giants and our place, humans' place in the world, made out of this the body of Ymir. Yeah. Anyway, I'll stop there.
No, that's absolutely right. I mean, that's also why I very much prefer the ancient religions, the pagan religions, if you will, because our gods are still closer to us. They are gods, they are divine, they are mighty and powerful, but not not invincible. They're still they can die, they can be hurt. There is indeed almost human aspects to them. So it makes them very much more relatable. It makes their struggles more relatable. It makes their fights more relatable, unlike a god who is just, omnipotent, sees everything, can do everything, just, snip and shit has happened. How can you relate to that? That's not real. I mean, it's I guess it's real because, I mean, there's, of course, this, one creator and whatever, it all goes back to one energy. But
it's a little hard to relate to that. It is like, because I'm not anything like that thing, which I think even Christianity specifically realized, because they're like, well, God had to send his son to go down and be human. He had to make himself human, to make himself relatable, so that we could understand what he was trying to say. And then but that I think that's bringing that in line with a lot of other stories that exist where the gods are not perfect. They're even subject to the control of their own nature. Like, they do what they do almost involuntarily, and that gets them into trouble. That's let's say I did a thread on Twitter one day. I just got inspired, and there was a thing. It's like it was a pie chart of all the problems in Greek mythology, and it was this cause, that cause, whatever. But the whole thing was just Zeus couldn't keep it in his pants. It was like he was indiscriminately having all these children out there. I'm like, well, yeah. Well, what were the Greeks trying to say with that? And it's like, so it's very much along the patriarchal, archon king like thing, but it's also looking at the nature. So he's prototypical male king above all, of course, but still subject to desires. And what we saw is that, so what is it relating to? The point of the thread was that it was saying, okay, humans, specifically human men, have a procreative potential. We can be the progenitor of heroes or monsters, and Zeus spawned both because he was indiscriminate. So it's like this lesson we're supposed to take from it is not do as Zeus does, but maybe don't. Maybe he fucked around a little too much, and because he was indiscriminate. Now we got Hercules out of that, but we also got the Minotaur. So you got to be really careful. So human men, be careful how you breed. Don't do it indiscriminately. You want more heroes. You don't want to make monsters. And if you look at human behavior, if we look at, say, the phenomenon of a guy that's got 6 baby mamas and all his kids are growing up without him and they're growing up poor and broke, and he has bred indiscriminately, and we don't know how many of those people subjected to bad quality of life and absent father are going to end up turning into monsters because he couldn't keep it in his pants, because he probably never heard of the story of Zeus and didn't take it to heart and that kind of a thing. So I love this analysis from that angle. I don't know where I was going with that. Go ahead.
No, but that's absolutely true, and that's also what so many people, or the ones who don't know, let's say, or the ones who refuse to see out of their little box. Yeah. They're like, oh, but your gods dismissive. Are not. Yeah, like, your gods are not real. Those stories are just fantasy and whatever. It's like, no. I mean, our gods are not real. I mean, they're freaking real to me. I felt them. I felt their presence. I have been in their presence. They have come to me in whatever form that may have been. And our stories are fantasies? No, our stories are lessons. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're great stories, first and foremost. They're great kids' bedtime stories, if you will. But there's definitely a deeper meaning to them. We're supposed to learn something from them, because those stories are told to us, or, brought to us by the gods. Mm-hmm. And they expect certain things of us. They're like, if you want to honor us, if you want to be a good man, if you want to be a good woman, a good husband, a good wife, this is how we think you're supposed to do it. Like, these are the general guidelines. However you do that in your own life, that is up to you, as long as you follow these guidelines. So absolutely, it's also kind of a thing that I talk about in my book, or let the
I was going to get to that
talk
too.
about
Yeah.
in my book, of course. We don't have a holy text. You know, we don't have a Bible. We don't have a God, what is it? What the Hindu texts?
Yeah, I can't. The Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like we don't really have that. We have our sagas. We have our stories. I mean,
Poetic Eddas.
but
Right, yeah.
the poetic Edda, the prose Edda, in that even, you know, a smaller bit, the Havamal, the teachings of Odin, but they're not religious texts.
Yeah.
It
was all
stories,
primarily an oral tradition, which is why it didn't get put down into a Bible. These were stories meant to be told around a campfire as a you know, metaphorically, big kitchen table, whatever you want to do, but as
around the campfire,
communal
around
group experience.
The hearth.
That's one thing I was going to say too, is that a lot of people who dismiss mythologies and religions or whatnot, there's very rational atheists. Well, no, you can't. But you put God in my hand so I can weigh it and measure it. It doesn't work like that. Of course you can't. But that's why I tease out the idea between stories which are true and stories which are real or factual. So I look at that and the easiest example is Aesop's fable. I don't believe foxes can talk, but I believe the story of the fox and the sour grapes is true. I don't think it ever happened, but it's expressing a truth, and it's sure it's using animals that can talk. Whatever. I didn't want those grapes anyway. They're probably sour. Well, there's denial and there's all kinds of psychological concepts that go. That's why I want to write that. That's one of the books I got. It's in my brain. I've been talking about this for years, but I got to get through some other. I got like 5 other books to edit first. Working on it. So that's how I look at these stories. And someone, I wish I could claim I thought of this, but someone I heard mentioned that religion is an adaptive technology developed by humans. And what I mean by that is we learn to communicate, and then we learn to communicate beyond immediate things and start communicating about conceptual things. Instead of this is water, it's like, okay, the concept of water. Water is everywhere. It's in different forms. It's in a lake. It's in a river. It falls out of the sky. As we started to abstract, and then that, I think, is where these religions came from. We started pulling together. That's why I consider all these stories absolutely true. They're saying something true about the human condition, about the world we live in, and about how to. And then the religions that survive is like we were talking about memes. It's the idea that if a meme lasts long enough, it has some value. It is an adaptive technology that helped that group of people succeed and survive in their environment.
Yeah.
And live to carry on the traditions. So I don't think there's anything in any of these stories that are without value or pure fantasy. I think there's something to learn from all of them. I think we'd be a lot better off if we could, lean into that instead of dismissing it. And we need science, but we also need storytelling. We need to understand ourselves in the world. Because what is it? It's like a why and the how. Science can tell you how. How does this work? How do I accomplish something? How long of a lever do I need to move that rock? Fair enough. It can't tell you why. Why should I care about moving a rock? Should I move the rock? Maybe the rock is there for a reason. Maybe we leave the rock. It can tell you how to dam a river. It can't tell you if that's good or bad for your community. So that's how I look at science and religion. Is like the religion side of things is, some people call it philosophy, whatever you want to say, but that gets into the why. Why do anything? Why care about anything? What is important? But not only that, but like how to live successfully, which in a way then bridges the gap between science and religion too. It's like, well, when you put these things into practice, then it becomes practical. Then it becomes like, okay, this actually works. Anyway, I rambled long enough. Go ahead.
But it's
you were talking about your book,
yeah, and just a little going on a little bit what you said, like science initially, like the only people who could read or write when science actually became a serious thing were the monks.
Oh yeah,
that
was their whole thing.
The man of faith. So they were like, religion was the first one to introduce science. I think like, of course, maybe or probably to try and prove the existence of God, of course, because that's what they're all about. Can't blame them for it. It's a question we have always asked ourselves as human beings forever. Like, is there something higher than us? If so, what is it? And science, looking at nature and dissecting it, literally dissecting it, is a very good way to find out. Of course, you see the commonalities. You see like, oh, this is like that, but this is also like that. Must mean that this is not by accident. And now it's and over the years, over the centuries, it's become like a juxtaposition of each other. And now, as I mentioned early on, you see science proving religion again. The best example that I always give is the like quantum entanglement. That in a way, through some invisible threads on a universal quantum level, we're all connected somehow. Yeah, that's the web of weird. That's the web of fate. That's how we have called it for centuries. So I guess definitely. Science, thanks for acknowledging that now. I mean, It's a different name, but same thing.
Yeah, that was my thing too. When I was saying like, put God in my hand so I can weigh it and measure it. It's like, we don't only treat material things like they're real. We also treat concepts like they're real, which that's one of my greatest. So I'm most familiar with Greek mythology, of course, and the Greeks conceived of gods as forces, which they said human beings are the playthings of the gods. So you've got Aphrodite, and capriciously, you have an involuntary feeling of love towards someone else. You have a physical attraction, but then you get to know their personality, and you're like, wow, all of a sudden I love this person. And it's a completely involuntary process. So at that point you have to say, well, the goddess of love is real. Like, I am experiencing a real feeling. It can be described and quantified in a particular way, but these are the forces that move us. And they consider them external to ourselves, or at least above ourselves, outside of ourselves, because they don't just, it's not like Aphrodite lives in me specifically and nowhere else. She's everywhere in that sense. She's omnipresent and can visit anyone, send Cupid with a little arrow to light it up. So we're describing what does it feel like to be human? What are these experiences we have? And then we abstract up levels, and you get to that abstractions, and those are, in my opinion, that's what abstractions are every bit as real as concrete physical objects. Categories are real, even though we can't touch them. It's I spend a lot of time, I used to, arguing with folks about the idea that the intangible is not less real than the tangible. It just has to be measured in a different way. You can't measure them with the same set of tools. You have to look at it a little bit differently. And there's and I think there's even the folks who are very hardcore, sciencey minded, atheist. It's all fantasy. None of that stuff's real. The gods don't exist. A god doesn't exist. Whatever. I think even they believe in the truth of categories and concepts, because they use them all the time. Oh, your picture got a little disjointed there. Do you want to fix it or leave it?
No, it's fine. It's fine.
Here's an interesting thing. Random occurrence or omen. What is that? What do you think? But then there's actual augury in terms of like, okay, well, how do you make sense of that? If we were to, now that my mind just said, 99% chance it's just, you didn't stick the thing up there, felt fair enough, or the clip failed, or whatever. You were moving it earlier today. It probably just knocked it loose a little bit, but sure. But the leaning into the idea of the mystical idea of omens would be like, now you got to interpret it properly. And that's, now I don't know how to do that or what framework we would do. That's not my specialty, but, real life omens. I don't know. My wife, I'll tell you though, she hates it when there's the blackbirds, I don't know, crows, ravens, whatever they are. I think in the Pacific Northwest we get both, but every now and again there's a tree full of them. They're loud. And she's like, I do not like this. I'm like, I don't blame you. I don't really like it either. I don't know why they're here, but, and I can't say we've noticed that it coincided with anything specifically negative or positive for us. But I think we probably just don't have the framework because each tradition has its own way of understanding these things and determining whether something is good or bad, depending on the circumstances.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, a couple hundred years ago, we thought that, black cats were a spawn of the devil.
Right? Poor kitties. And there's still some people today that are like, we still have that in America specifically, a lot of superstitions. It's bad if a black cat crosses your path. And to some people, they are like, they will turn around and walk away and go the other direction. And it's hard for me. Now, we might say, okay, that's silly. They're just black cats. And then there's some people who are like, well, maybe so. And then again, you look at that and like, okay, let's say we know the scenario is if you had continued walking forward, there was a mugger on the corner and he was going to stab you in the ribs and take your wallet. Well, the black cat crosses your path. If you continue on that path, yeah, something bad might happen. Or if you turn around and walk away, and then you look at it and go, well, the black cat then ends up being a warning spirit in a way. Not a, it's not there to curse you, it's there to save you. So I prefer those understandings of these
divine
things.
Intervention.
In a way. And I think what they did in the Matrix, I think it was a black cat that had the glitch when they reset the Matrix, the deja vu.
Yeah.
I think it was a black cat,
so.
which was that was pretty cool. Well, we didn't pick him; he picked us, so it is what it is. But
I mean, that's what cats do.
That's what they do.
They choose you. Especially my little one. She's, I guess, technically still kitten. She's a little over a year old.
They're still small and cute.
yeah. Oh, she is. I mean, she'll yell at me when she wants something, but like very softly yell at me, but still yell at me and doesn't stop. Like I'll hear her yelling from upstairs when I'm just on the couch, like eating. It's like, let me out. It's like, Shirley, I'm eating. Just hold on a moment. But I want out.
I need a break. I need some time. I gotta eat without you sitting on my shoulder trying to knock the spoon out of my hand.
Or that, yeah.
Well, we were talking about auguries and omens and whatnot. I thought that'd be a good time to. We've been talking for about an hour, and I think you've got about an hour left, and I don't want to cheat you out of the dream experience. So, are you ready to shift gears?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, of course.
Let's do the thing. So, as per my usual process, I just shut up and listen, and then we'll go through it again and kind of pull out some more details, and then we'll see if we can figure it out together. So, I'm ready when you are.
Benjamin the Dream Wizard wants to help you pierce the veil of night and shine the light of understanding upon the mystery of dreams. Every episode of his Dreamscapes program features real dreamers gifted with rare insight into their nocturnal visions. New Dreamscapes episodes appear every week on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and other video hosting platforms, as well as free audiobooks exploring the psychological principles which inform our dream experience, and much, much more. To join the wizard as a guest, reach out across more than a dozen social media platforms and through the contact page at benjaminthedreamwizard.com, where you will also find the wizard's growing catalog of historical dream literature available on Amazon, documenting the wisdom and wonder of exploration into the world of dreams over the past 2,000 years. That's Benjamin the Dream Wizard on YouTube and at benjaminthedreamwizard.com.
Yeah. I don't have like one specific dream, but there are always a few things that seem to come back to me every now and then. Things that I there is a message in them. I don't know what exactly. A lot of them having to do with either flying or swimming. So like really the opposite of each other. And so the flying thing, 9 out of 10 times, like it's not even like Superman flying through the sky. I mean, that would be absolutely awesome for a change. But it's mostly me running or like running away from something, but then like not able to really create speed. It's like my legs are going a million miles an hour, physically, so to speak, as for in the dream world. I am running, but I am going so incredibly slow that it feels like I'm not going anywhere. So then I don't know, I decide that, like, okay, since running isn't working, I'll try flying, and I'll just like kind of Superman, I guess, like kind of stick my hands forward, and then I'm actually able to like make speed and am fully free to move about. And I do remember one of those dreams, like some will stick with me in more detail than others perhaps, but like when I was running, it was in a desert environment, I believe.
This is the one that comes back to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why, but this was years ago, actually. It was in a desert-like environment, and I was running over a road, or like over the side of a road or something, and I couldn't make speed. I just, as I just mentioned. But then when I started flying, I was actually like fully free and able to like fly over cliffs and all of that, like full free motion to do anything and go anywhere. And then it also like kind of,
it keeps wanting to move.
Oh dear. But then it also like at that point it stops being a chase. Like I'm no longer chased by anything, or I'm no longer chasing anything. It's just freedom, like pure physical freedom, but still in a physical body in a way. Like not even flapping, or like, I mean, yeah, best way I can describe it is like kind of like Superman in a way, just not the full speed and all the things that he can do, which would be amazing. Sure. But yeah, like that's the one thing with the dreams, that where I'm flying, that seems to always be the progression, like trying to run the legs going a million miles an hour, not going anywhere, then fly, and then everything is okay. Then I'm free to go and move and whatever.
Yeah, very cool. We'll go through that again too, but it's a couple things to say there. So you've mentioned actually two of the most typical dreams that people have, and typical dreams are everything from falling to missing a train to flying, and also the boogeyman dream, which is they kept characterize it as boogeyman because it's a sense of running from something that you can't see or don't know what it is, but it's dangerous or means to harm you, or it's a sense of doom. You're trying to escape from something bad, but you can't. But you're moving slowly, and that's like specifically the boogeyman style of dream. And then of course the flying dreams, and they take on a lot of different Some people say they fly like Superman specifically because they've got that imagery in their mind. Some people describe it as just merely a bit of a levitation off the ground or just above the head level of people, not really flying around as much as this slow moving levitation. Some people describe it as they flap their wings, but they do. Some people describe it as floating on floating reclined as if resting on a cloud and the cloud's moving around, but there's no cloud. It's just as if that kind of gentle motion. Yeah. A lot of different ways people experience that. And there's one flying dream that I remember. So I remember none of my dreams, like ever. I wake up in the morning and all I know is I'm awake now, and there's nothing comes out with me. So it's like 99% of the time. But I do remember one where I'm in a cul-de-sac, and it's like a cul-de-sac, but then a bit of a short road to a very busy street, and I'm in the middle, and I start walking towards the busy street, and I start flapping my arms, and over the course of what seems like 10 seconds, like it felt like the whole thing took 10 seconds. I did like 5 seconds of gently floating up, and I hit a peak, and I gently floated down. I flapped my arms the whole time, and I kept walking towards the busy intersection. That was it. That was the whole thing. And it was a result of flapping my arms, almost like, well, let me see if I can do this. Let me experiment, that kind of a thing. So that's the one flying dream I can remember. Well, actually, I did have another one, but it wasn't really about the flying. It was more like the camera angle, but anyway.
Oh, that's interesting.
Could have characterized. So this is not about my dreams, but anyway, I got to draw a comparison to things too, just to show the variety.
Yeah, no, of course.
And there's been a lot of speculation about, well, what does it mean? And flying has often been related to freedom. And you did mention that, like a full free motion. So there's definitely an association of that in your mind. And the idea that a boogeyman dream turned into a flying dream, that you had this, what I'm doing is not working. The running, I can't pick up speed. I can't gain momentum. I can't get a. And the boogeyman dreams aren't always running away from something. Sometimes there's a fear of being too late to something, of not being able to make good time towards a destination. That can be another type of dream. So, but for years it felt like you were just moving slowly, or actually running from something.
Yeah, I mean, mostly from what I remember, like indeed running away from something, and not even, I don't know, not even necessarily something scary or like a feeling of dread of some kind, but just running away, like just, I don't know, have to get away, run.
Okay. Yeah, that's the one of the things that makes it a typical dream is that the what am I trying to say? The dreamer doesn't always know what it is, or almost never knows what it is. It isn't like it was a very specific type of monster I was running. Now there are monster dreams like that where it's a boogeyman dream. The boogeyman is very specific, but the broader category, most dreams of this type is it's specifically the running away, and the running away in slow motion, where it feels like your feet are stuck in molasses, or the air itself is thick and you can't get away.
It's not even that. It's not like the air is incredibly thick. It's not in slow motion or anything, but it's more like the cartoonish running away, like, feet going a million miles an hour, and like barely touching the ground or something. It's sprinting in place, but very slowly going forward because I'm like just not touching enough ground to be moving forward that fast. I mean, it's kind of like hovering in a way, but just, I don't know. I think that's the best way I can describe it. Like my feet are not touching enough ground so that I can, go in full sprint. Like it'll just be like the balls of my feet or something, or I'd be like more scraping over the ground and sometimes touching it and getting a little push forwards, but mostly just spinning and not going anywhere.
Fair enough. So this is a little bit of a deviation or within the category still of that typical dream. So it's good to know. And definitely if I make any statements you're like, it wasn't quite like that, correct me. Tell me what it was actually like. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So we've actually got a situation where it doesn't feel like you were moving in slow motion as much as you couldn't get traction. You couldn't propel yourself forward because your feet just weren't making the kind of connection with the ground that gave you the ability to move forward. The other thing I was, I wrote it down, but I wanted to come back and clarify. You said running over a road and or by the or the side of the road
or next to
and so
just one
the image that jumps
straight line, one straight road.
Yeah. Well, the image that came into my mind when you said running over is almost as if the road was slightly raised and you were crossing the road, running over the top of a. Now, this is the image that popped into my head, but what you're actually talking about is you're moving in the direction the road is pointing and you're off to one side and you're trying to make forward progress.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, good. Well, that's good. That's the other thing too. Is like the first thing I got to do is see what you see, not what comes to my mind when you first say the words. And that's perfectly fine. So running in the direction along the road. You said a desert like daytime in the desert.
Yeah. I mean that's the one that I guess over the years stuck with me most. I mean that's the one that kind of pops up in my mind's eye. But desert and like just complete desert, like no nothing, just desert on both sides, sun, like very hot desert sun, and then the road over which I'm running. But then only as I start flying, like more of the landscape becomes visible. Like then it actually turns into more of an actual world, if you will, and not just that one particular bit. Like then I can actually see things, and I can see like cliffs and blue sky and all of that.
Yeah, for sure. So your experience of it was you're in the desert, on the road, heat, sun, just desert on both sides, of course. The road appears straight.
Yeah.
Okay. And then at some point you have the experience, and you're running or you're attempting to run, and you have the experience of this isn't working. What I'm doing isn't working, so I need to try something else. Why don't I try to fly?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not getting enough traction. My feet aren't touching the ground properly. Why? Or like I should try flying. Because obviously running isn't working. So I'll fly.
Yeah.
Seems like a reasonable solution.
Right. And then as soon as you thought of it, it was already happening. It was one of those things where it's like you didn't have to do anything specific.
I mean, slow process at first, like the specific dream that I'm trying to remember is it's kind of like kind of starting off slow, like first just indeed just like regular heights, kind of just like my feet go backwards and the rest is just like staying at that same level, but then like pretty fast after I have just full full control, full motion. So it's hovering above the ground at first, you know, kind of getting used to it, seeing if it really works, and then it's just okay. Now I can go, and I do.
So at first, the experience is you realize what you're doing isn't working. You decide to shift gears, try something different. Oh, well, let's try to fly, and then you do it cautiously. And at first, you're only flying at a relatively low height, and you're still following the road. But then at some point, when you realize it's working, you take off, you leave the road, and go explore.
Go wherever. Yeah.
And then, so we've got some interesting things happening here in terms of like, so I'm always trying to go to like, okay, what's the concepts involved? And you've got a road through the desert. That says something. You've got you're following the path on the road for whatever reason. Maybe you put yourself there that we haven't maybe gotten around to yet, but go ahead.
No, yeah, they're from what I do remember when I have those kind of dreams. There's not really something leading up to it. You know, there's no.
You're just there.
Like no
all of a sudden.
full backstory. Yeah. It's, you know, I'm there. I'm trying to run away for whatever reason because there is something that I need to run away from. Apparently.
Or towards, or just the general concept of not getting traction, not making progress. What you're doing isn't working. That's where I was going with it. Is like you've got a road.
Yeah.
So you've got so there's a variety of different symbols going on there. You got the desert, you got the road, and you've got the act of running, the act of flying. Then, so I mean, a road is what we conceptualize often. Where like it's a path. It's a way. It's the line that connects 2 points. It's something to follow that takes us where we're going. So and off the road in your mind, you've put a desert, which is iconic. And again, stop me if you're like, this doesn't make any sense to me. That's not how I conceive these things, please. Mm-hmm. But generally, deserts would be like, there's not a lot there. It's not a very hospitable place. And you've actually put it to the idea of this is there's a hot sun beating down too, and there's just nothing. So it would be a lot different if you're like, I was on a road and to the left and to the right of me were these things I really wanted. You know, one was a carnival and I really wanted to go there, and the other one on the other side was a Cinnabon, and man, I was hungry. The road would mean something else. This is like, it's the path through the desert. It's a place you don't stop in the desert. You don't live in the desert. It's empty. It's barren. It's hot. There's, you know, so I think that's very much reinforcing the idea of the road being you're following a path to take you somewhere because you don't want to stay where you are. Where you are is not an inviting place to be. So all of this is making sense so far, or feels right.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's how we do this thing. We just start feeling it out. So staying in one place was not an option. Staying there, tolerating the inability to make forward progress. You're like, this cannot endure. I have to do something different. And what came to you was,
I have to get away from whatever is behind me. So, you know, staying in one place and like then trying to figure out what can I do is not an option because I have to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I mean, it's a very natural thing to do in real life. We're trying to accomplish something. It's not working. Well, let me try something else. So we shift tactics. And I don't think it's random. I don't think the desert is random. The road is random. The feeling of something behind you must get away from. I don't think the inability to get traction is random, and I don't think choosing to fly is like what I like to do counterfactuals. You didn't suddenly imagine a car pulls up to give you a ride. That's something else. You didn't imagine putting on a pair of roller skates. Oh, now I can follow the road. It's very specifically leaving the road, actually. It was, and you had to test the waters, in a way, test the waters first. You had to say, well, am I capable of this new maneuver? Is this something within my ability? And at first you're very, almost training wheel style. I'm only going to hover a little off the road. And
to like see, like, can I get enough speed, can I get enough forward momentum with this? So it's still about the going forward. It's still about having to move on. So it's all going in one. Well, I mean, not necessarily fluid motion, but it's all one continuous thing. It's I have to get away from whatever it is, not getting enough traction, not getting enough speed running. I still have to get away. Let's try flying. Can I get enough speed? Can I get enough momentum? Yes, this seems to work. Awesome. Off. Very generalized, but that's yeah.
Absolutely. No, I was listening the whole time too, and I'm also kind of pulling out my own ideas that the idea that came to my mind about a desert is that it's not fertile. There's cactuses and there's little shrew mice that live there, the scorpions and all that stuff, but it's not a lush green valley. It's not the floodplain with the good soil where the crops grow. There's like, I'm imagining, what am I trying to say? There's something very suggestive of problem solving and creativity going on here. You're trying to get out of you're trying to follow the road out of the desolate place to avoid some bad thing that's behind you. And there's like and that bad thing can be something like, the stagnation, the very concept of being stuck in a place that's not good for you, a place that you don't want to be.
In my life, especially like during my teenage years, and I guess also a little in my 20s, although that manifested differently, I have struggled a lot with finding my place, and for some reason, every place that I did end up, whether that be school or a group of people, group of friends, or whatever, it never felt like the right place. It never felt like my place. School especially high school, it's always been a disaster. Whole thing, high school sucked for me, very much so.
Yeah, I was not a fan either. It was not my place.
No. And I always had, or usually had, like one or two people that I was not necessarily friends with, but that I could chat with, like during break or something. But if they were occupied, by their friend group or their like regular clique or whatever, already talking with them, there wasn't really a way for me to be there as well. Like, then I was just left to my own, left to, with myself, and I spent break time alone or wandering around.
Okay, so it's what am I doing? Taking notes. I start characterizing something some way, and what pops into your head is this idea of not having multiple periods throughout your life where you didn't feel like you were in the right place, and a lot of it had to do with perhaps friend groups or social belonging issues, finding the right.
Yeah, and when I was 10 years old, we moved to where I live now, actually, which is.
You left and then came back. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, eventually, I came back, and my parents are calling me like kind of crazy for it. It's like, whoa, if we told you 10 years ago, you'd say we're crazy, and look at you now. It's like, yeah, I know. I'm kind of, still processing it like myself. Like, I'm back here. Okay.
Yeah. Well, sometimes to get there,
but-
you had to take the long way. You had to leave first and make sure it's what you wanted. And now you're back. You're like, yeah, I saw what the rest of the world was like. No, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's and also, it's a better place to raise my kids.
Mm.
It's smaller town. It's a place I know. I like already lived here. Down the road, take a left, go a little bit further.
Yep.
There is the home that I have lived for a good 10 years. So as the crow flies, it's a couple hundred meters.
And give it another 10 years, your kids will be saying, it's so boring here. I'm going to move to the city. And you're like, I did it too. And then we'll see if they come back.
Probably.
Yeah. I've always,
it seems to be a pattern.
right. I've already spent too long in the city.
but-
Even in the suburbs of Portland around here, there's still too many people. Yeah, I'm still looking. Well, we were talking earlier. I don't know if we got it on camera or not, but the idea of I want to move out in the woods too, just away from people.
Yeah, but I was 10 years old. I had like 2 years left at school before I went to high school. But the home that we lived in, my childhood home, where I grew up as a baby till 10 years old. 3 kids, 2 parents. It's getting a little cramped, and with me eventually going to high school, I'm gonna need my own space, or just more space in that house wasn't really an option. I mean, now that I'm a parent myself and have a lot stronger bond with my own parents, I understand completely the decisions that they made. But when I was 10 years old, I was torn out of my comfort zone and placed somewhere that it wasn't my hometown. The only people I really knew here were family, but of course no kids my age. It wasn't my home, it wasn't my town. I didn't know anyone here. Didn't go to school long enough here to actually make some friends. So it never felt like my home, which made my teenage years a lot harder as well.
For sure. Yeah.
So
you described this type of dream as recurring. You've had this type of dream more than once.
Every once in a while, it
Comes back to you.
It comes back.
Gotcha.
Yeah, like that's one of the dreams that seems to come back. But like same, like the environment might be different,
Yeah.
but it's always the not getting enough traction, kind of scraping my feet
Gotcha.
and deciding to fly. Like that is always the same.
So discussing this, and this is how this thing works is I just ramble and then you say some stuff, and what is happening? Like what you say, what you're telling me inspires ideas and questions, and then what I ask or respond to inspires your own thoughts. So in focusing on this type of dream, and this one specifically, we're getting some interesting stuff that just bubbles up. God, I'm remembering when I was 10 years old and the first time I was, thrust into a place that didn't feel comfortable to me. And so my natural assumption would then, or question would then be, is that about the time this recurring dreams first started happening, or was it connected to some other event in your life?
No, I think I think I was like let's say 14, 15
Okay.
years old, like well into my high school years, the worst high school years actually. Like 14, 15 were like truly the darkest years of my high school years. that's when those dreams really started to manifest themselves. I haven't had them a lot since I am kind of finding spaces or creating spaces where I can be myself, where I can feel myself. But every once in a while, it'll, at least the memory of that dream will still pop up.
And the next question for me would be, when's the last time you can remember having it? Might be a tough one. Sorry. It's hard to nail down too. It's like,
that's a good one.
If it wasn't recent, then it would be like 10 years ago or 5 years ago or 3.
No, I don't know. It was at my few years ago. Definitely a few years ago.
Okay.
Don't remember exactly.
When you think about the last time that it occurred, sometimes you're throwing yourself back into memory. When was that? Did any particular struggles you were going through at the time come to you? Like, oh yeah, I was also in another place I didn't want to be. What is it okay to say?
A very toxic relationship with the mother of my children.
Oh no!
And I know. I love my kids. I just wish I could have had them with a different mother. And I'm very open about this, so you can keep this in. No worries.
Fair enough.
She doesn't listen to any of the shows that I listen to anyway.
It's not going to get back to her. Yeah.
Nah, and either way,
especially if you're not getting along. Hey, watch a 2-hour episode of me talking about my dreams. She's going to go, fuck you. I'm not interested in that. Good.
Probably.
Yeah.
Okay. And I was also feeling very, very torn because I love my daughter. She's daddy's princess. I love my son, my mini me, which my ex so loves. Mini me running around. You're still not gonna get rid of me.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be a father. I wanted to be there. I just because that is the that was the best feeling I ever had, and that I ever will have, being a father and receiving the pure love of a child, of your own child. So I wanted to stay there because I wanted to be a father, because I needed to be a father, because that's the one thing that was pure love that I really hadn't known. But at the same time, that also meant that I had to stay in this incredibly toxic relationship, which was breaking me down mentally, spiritually, every way. So I was incredibly torn for a very long time, and I do believe that is also when that dream, or that type of dream, started to pop up again. That's when my dreams became more vivid. Anyway, yeah.
Interesting. So with this particular, I'm gonna put a pin in all that for a second. I think it's
Sure.
extremely relevant, but I also want to finish the dream, and the final portion of it, after you cautiously tested the ability and put it into practice, and then eventually you felt confident enough, safe, stable, skilled, whatever it was, with that particular ability. Then you left the road and you were able to go, and what you explored was you went into different canyons, you flew up over buttes. It all stayed desert.
Um, I mean, not always, of course, but there was a lot more. The world seemed to be a much more alive. You know, like I said, it wasn't um, it wasn't necessarily like just desert and a scorching hot sun, but it was also just, you know, beautiful giant cliffs, and I could see. I think I could see like some plant life here and there in a blue sky. It's like the world, yeah, like the world became beautiful. Like the world came alive when I started feeling, you know, the freedom that I had. And yeah, up and down, you know, left, right, whatever. I had full freedom to go wherever I wanted to, however I wanted to. Um, yeah, just as soon as I indeed felt confident enough that, you know, okay, like I'm stable, you know, the flying thing it's working, I'm not like crashing back down or whatever, I'm actually, you know, I'm stable.
You did have that thought, the idea of
and then,
being cautious and doing it properly.
yeah, just um because, you know, this had to work, like also kind of the you know, the feeling of like sort of a panic, like this has to work, because if this doesn't work, if the flying thing also doesn't work, then I am out of options. Or if the flying thing works but only at the same speed that I have been trying to run, then, you know, I'm in trouble, because, you know, I have to get away at a higher speed. So if this doesn't work, if that doesn't work, I'm in trouble.
Okay, I think that feeds in, not feeds in, but also speaks to where am I going with this? I had so many thoughts and I started writing and then I wandered off in my own brain. It's interesting to say that you what am I saying? There was not immediate confidence in the flight skill. There was a cautious testing and assessment of it. Like, number one, I don't want to fall out of the sky, but number two, it also needs to work. It needs to get me off the road. It doesn't need to, it can't be the same lack of progress. Otherwise, I haven't really changed anything. So there's an assessment factor to a new methodology. Say, you know, I'm going to try something different and see if it works. It's interesting that it ended up, you know, as I was saying, you didn't strap on roller skates. You didn't stick your thumb out and a car stops like you're hitchhiking. You know, the way you solve the problem. What am I trying to say? Universally, I mean, the idea of flight to humans is synonymous almost with freedom. It's the idea of, well, here we are, you know, these earthbound creatures stuck to gravity. We envy the birds and that kind of thing. But there's a breaking free of freedom of movement specifically. I can go anywhere. I can almost do anything. And then you show yourself it being not only being successful in terms of your ability to utilize and deploy the skill, but the results of it of now the landscape opens up. You see, not only did you get away from the road, but you see the benefits of getting away from the road, which is now everything is it's more beautiful. There's more lush or green plant. There's life again where there wasn't in the desert. There's a blue sky that feels inviting and open versus just the oppressive heat of the sun coming out of the sky. It really changes everything. So what it's feeling like to me, like broad strokes, and why it would come back is, you know, so why this particular form? Well, whatever you were going through the first time this dream happened, these icons were so powerful for what you were experiencing that they got what I call, they got crystallized. So, and that happens with recurring dreams a lot, is the way we tell ourselves the story is so perfect that every time that situation is around us, happening to us, threatening to happen in the near future. We're worried about it. It's happened to a friend, a relative, someone we care about. That iconography comes back to you. You're like, oh, here we go again. It's this situation. And what is that situation? It seems to be like I'm stuck in a bad place. I don't want to stay where I'm at. It's not working for me. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be 100 different reasons. So it's not. I don't think it's specific to a given reason. Although the change of the setting, I'll tell you what the reason is. Probably like the desert is one thing. If you're in the forest or at the bottom of the ocean, that's another thing. The other cues in the dream will probably give you an idea of like, okay, where is this problem happening in my life? Why did the setting change? But I'm going through the same motions. Yes, you've got this idea of what I'm doing is not working. I am stuck in place. And it's specifically speaking about the idea of changing a strategy. I need to do something. I need to free myself from where I am stuck, and then through this new method of approach, it's going to open up my potentials, my possibilities. I'm gonna get out of a bad situation and go to a better one where I won't feel, stuck in an unfertile, hot desert on a road. And that's we can conceive of our path in life often as a road, and we're on a road moving forward towards one destination. And sometimes it can mean changing the destination. You get off the road completely. There's also a freedom in that too. It's like you're off the beaten path. Now you're doing something completely new. You're experiencing new experiences, and that can be stuck in a rut. Let me get out of the rut and go experience something. It can just be boredom, but it can definitely be, as you were saying, like I'm in a toxic relationship and this, I have to get out of here. What's coming for me is doom. It's something bad and it's on my heels. And if I stand still, it'll get me if I don't leave this bad situation. So anyway, I'm going to stop there. And what do you think what I'm putting together for you?
Yeah, no, it absolutely makes sense. It rings very true. Like it was very much about, and that's that's the feeling that I constantly had. Escape something negative. Escape from something that was gonna hurt me. Mm-hmm. If it would catch up to me, it would hurt me. So therefore, I had to escape.
Absolutely.
I had to run away. I had to fly away. Just anything to stay ahead of it and eventually, hopefully, escape. Indeed.
Yeah, definitely. And that would, and then conceptualizing, okay, well, what is the boogeyman? What is the feeling? And it can just be, I'm sad because I'm lonely, because I have no friends in a particular area I just moved into. And staying in that situation means having no friends persists and the loneliness persists. And that could be the boogeyman creeping up on you in the idea of, this state of persistent, lonely sadness will engulf me and it will catch me. That will become my world if I stand still. If I don't move, if I don't try something different. And I think this dream comes back to you specifically when you're looking at what you're trying and it's not working. Because we all put different plans into, let me try this, let me try that. What if I approach it from this? And if those things are not working, then you go, okay, I need to break completely free of gravity and try something radically different, as radical as flying compared to running on the asphalt. And so if that dream comes back, you definitely want to look at your life and say, okay, where am I stuck in a place I don't want to be? What do I need to break free of? What is this dream telling me? In terms of it seems like a dream that comes when it's time to take a new approach on something. It doesn't necessarily tell you what that new approach is, but it's it's a warning sign. It's just letting you know, okay, something's not working. So here, pay attention and do something about it. That's kind of how I would augur or omen that dream. So, okay, what does it mean? What does it mean to you specifically? So I don't know if that feels right.
Yeah. Kind of telling me to escape from that situation to, you know, indeed find something that is working, because whatever is happening, whatever I am doing or is, you know, is happening in my immediate surrounding is not working, or, you know, not to my benefit. It's chasing me. It's going to hurt me, or is hurting me. I am afraid of it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, if you feel like we've gotten as much as we can out of that experience, and that kind of given a, you know, an explanation, to the theme, and it's interesting, you know, a lot of people want to, when they bring, I can't words today. This is all of a sudden, when they bring recurring dreams to me, sometimes they want to talk about the way that they're all similar. I'm like, well, we're going to get there, but first we got to pick one. Let's pick one and kind of dial it in and see what's happening here. And then you highlight, okay, these are the similarities between the other dreams. And that gives us more of a, I almost have to go at it backwards. I can't tell you what all the recurring dreams mean until we kind of figure out what one likely means. And then we look at the common elements between the other ones. Like, okay, if this theme is repeating, here's what seems most likely. So that's how I do it. That's how we do the dream thing. We're emailing you like, do I need to prepare? Like, no, you don't have to prepare. You just bring yourself. I do all the work. We just have a chat. It was easy enough.
Yeah, you're very good at this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
I mean, I can make certain assumptions and associations. I mean, now, of course, you know, so many years after and thinking back and whatever, but you really break it down, you know, and yeah, no, I like it. I like it.
And then very often sometimes these interviews, I'm noticing a pattern here too, like when people really, when I've offered something of value and they're like, okay, that really feels right. It almost feels like they're left speechless in a way of like, they're like, now they're in their head, like going, wow, I don't know what to say. It's like, I'm feeling it. And then it almost feels like these interviews like kind of peter out. They don't keep a lot of high energy all the way through the end because, well, I just left you with some things to think about. So that's why I carry all the weight on my shoulders. Like, I don't expect you to be entertaining or, or like, you know, I got to cover for the end of it where people are like, whoa, kind of mind blown. So anyway.
Yeah, no, I understand, and you have definitely broadened my understanding, and definitely if that dream does come back in the future, and I'm sure it will. I mean, I'm only 32 years old. Shit can still happen. Yeah. It will happen too. I'm sure of it. But yeah, I'll think back at, you know, the Dream Wizard and what he told me, and just be like, okay, this has to do with change. Something needs to change. What's happening? What does need to change? What is the wise old Dream Wizard? What did he say again?
Exactly. Or you can say, you know, these visions are a gift from the gods, and they're sending you a warning. They're saying, look, you have the opportunity to take action. And if you do, things can get better. So look for that opportunity. And the fact that the dream comes means the search for the opportunity is likely to be fruitful because you've already identified something's wrong, and there's probably something you can do about it. You just haven't brought it to consciousness yet. So whether it's the gods or the subconscious, and who says they aren't the same thing, you know,
exactly.
I think that's what I'm aiming for with most of these things is to do, you know, give someone an interesting experience. Let's talk about it. And, whoa, let's blow your mind and whatnot. But also, what can you take with you? How can this be useful to you long term, perhaps? So, anyway, that's enough about me. So, well, I think we're gonna get you out of here with plenty of time before your next endeavor. So that's good. That's what I was shooting for too. Give you the full experience and not keep you too late. So, well, if you feel good about it, I'll wrap it up.
Yeah. No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Good deal. Well, then I will say to all of you listening out there, this has been our friend Steinfox from the Netherlands. He is the host of the Greyhorn Pagans podcast, a worldwide podcast and tribal network for pagans, witches, mystics, and wizards, and other spiritual folk. You can find him at greyhornpagans.com. That's Grey. He's also the author of Pagan Revival, a guide to the ancient wisdom for the modern world. And, of course, for my part, would you kindly like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. Always need more viewers for the videos and live game streams Monday through Friday, 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Pacific. You can also, wow. I can't words today. This episode brought to you in part by ABC Book 10, The Witch's Dream book, a late 1900s view of the kind of pop culture around mysticism and the occult, focusing specifically on dreams. Fantastic work. You can find that, of course, at benjaminthe.dreamwizard.com, including downloadable MP3 versions of this very podcast. Last but not least, if you'd head on over to benjaminthe.dreamwizard.locals.com, building a community there. It's attached to my Rumble account, free to join. You can make donations or just reach out and say, hey, I'd like to be a guest because I want to talk to you. So that, my mouth is getting dry. That's the end of the show. Stein, thank you for being here. Good talk again.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thanks for having me. Thanks for breaking it down so well. It's you're truly a dream wizard. I can say that much. Thank you.
Very cool. Thank you very much. And everybody out there, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.